knowing that he was going to need this intensive care, that actually helped me, right? So I knew that the moment he was born, he was going to be intubated and I wouldn't get to hold him.
My hope was that God somehow would do a miracle that day, that Nate was going to be born, and at his first gasp of breath, he would cry and his lungs would be perfect and everything would be healed. That was my hope.
Today's program is going to really touch on some tender areas when couples get diagnoses that are not favorable about their pregnancy. And it's going to be a powerful discussion today with our two guests.
Mao and Christin Rosa faced decisions most of us never will have to deal with, and their journey shows the value of hope and perseverance in Christ. They're the parents of 3 precious kids, and Christin has captured their journey in a book called Saving Nate, Choosing Life After a Devastating Prenatal Diagnosis. And of course, we have that here at the ministry. Give us a call or click the link in the description below.
Christin and Mao, welcome to Focus on the Family. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And both of you are from Canada now, right? Mm-hmm. Mao, you migrated from Brazil.
Yes.
You like cold weather, or what's the deal?
I guess I do now.
I hope so.
Yes. Yeah, I'm originally born and raised in Brazil, and I decided to pursue other experiences. Like I'm an architect by trade, and so when I graduated in Brazil, I wanted to go abroad to study, and Canada was the place that opened the doors.
And you're living in Calgary.
Yes.
Now, Christin, you were from Alberta. I'm getting into this for all the Canadian listeners.
Yes.
Appreciate
We
that.
love our
Yeah.
Canadian listeners, so
Thank
this is
you.
it. This is
Yes.
Big Canada Day.
Yes.
So
Yeah, they
what
are.
was your life like growing up?
I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, which is the capital, and I grew up in a typical Christian middle-class family, and I had a pretty good life,
Yeah.
and after I graduated from college, I went to China, and I taught there for 2 years, and when I was preparing to come back to Canada, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, it would make sense for me to go back to Edmonton, but I felt the Lord calling me for some reason to Calgary. And so I was like, well, okay, Lord, that's kind of weird. But so I applied for jobs in both cities, and I ended up being offered a job in Calgary. So I moved, and then that's when I met Mao. And kind of the rest is history.
That's so good. It's good to get your background. It connects us all to your story. So you get married and you decide, or things happen, and you have your first child, Thomas. Describe that experience of now mom and dad.
Right. Well, he was unexpected, but very wanted.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we'd actually been trying to get pregnant, and then it wasn't happening. So we kind of thought, you know what? Maybe we'll go to Brazil for a year. I'll learn the language. Mauricio was hoping to start a missions nonprofit organization. And so we packed up our house. We found someone to rent it, and we both quit our jobs. And it was at that point that I found out that I was expecting. Oh. And so we were kind of thrown for a loop, but we're like, okay, what do we do now, right?
Yeah,
do we try to get our jobs back? Do we stay? Do we still go? What do we do?
So you were there and that happened. So Christin, now with the struggles with fertility, you probably weren't sure if number 2 would come along. Describe what happened there with your second pregnancy.
Yeah, so I think Thomas was about a year old when we decided, okay, let's try again. And once again, we struggled with infertility. And this time we tried a pretty simple fertility treatment, artificial insemination. And we thought, okay, well, we'll just try this. The odds of getting pregnant with that are really low, actually. They say about 13% per try. But we thought, okay, well, we'll try this, and if it doesn't happen, then we're going to pursue adoption. But we thought we would just give it a try first. And so after the second try, I found out I was pregnant.
And so, Mal, let me ask this. We're going to get into the difficult story now. So you heard about this child growing in your wife's womb. and there were some potential complications the doctor talked to you about, both of you.
Yeah.
So give me those first impressions. How did they deliver the news? What was it? What was your response, both individually then as a couple?
So after we found out we were pregnant, and then we received the news that we were expecting twins. So I think it was at week 18, we went for an ultrasound to determine, the gender of the babies and all of that, and to make sure everything's okay. At that day, the technician told us, hey, there is something here. We don't know what it is. We're gonna kind of send you for a clinical pregnancy
more
clinic,
tests,
Like
diagnostics.
an
in
in-depth
depth.
ultrasound, yeah.
So we were like, okay, we don't know what it is. They didn't really tell exactly what it was. So we were a bit scared. We called the family, hey, can you guys pray for this?
Yeah.
And then at that day, they came and they broke the news to us. And then they said, hey, he has this condition that's called congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And they'd explain a little bit of what it was. And we were like, oh boy, for me personally, my experience was as a man was in kind of okay, what do I have to do to fix this? What do I have to do? I got into kind of a work mode kind of a thing, right? At the same time, trying to take care of her. Kristen is a very strong person when it comes to those things. But that was the experience, was breaking the news. My mind was like, okay, what do I do now? What do I do to do whatever I can?
So you're moving into fix-it mode.
That's
like
right.
most of us husbands. Kristen, how about you? Where were you at emotionally at that moment?
Yeah, for me, I was just, I'm an introvert, and I like to process things and think about things. So we had just received this onslaught of information. She explained what congenital diaphragmatic hernia is, and then
Describe that for the listeners
Sure.
and viewers.
Yeah, so basically, the diaphragm is a muscle that separates the lower abdominal organs from the chest cavity. So, we have our, intestines and liver and all that down below. So, Nate had a very large hole in his diaphragm. And so that allowed his intestines and part of his liver to migrate up into his chest. And then it crowded out his lungs and kind of shifted everything over to the the left a little bit. And so his right lung was almost non-existent, very, very tiny. And then his left lung was only 27% the size of a healthy lung.
Wow.
And so his, CDH was really severe. So most babies, if they're born, if you're born with CDH that severe, the baby cannot breathe at all. The lungs are just not developed enough.
And they're telling you this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yes, exactly. And then they also listed all the health concerns he could have if he were to survive. Right.
So that's where you're at. And in fact, the doctors even suggested abortion would be an option.
Yeah. So after giving this onslaught of information without giving us a chance just to digest that, no opportunity to ask any questions.
Wow.
There was no discussion of treatment or anything. She said to us, given the severity of this condition, you may want to consider having a reduction.
That was the word.
That was the word. The word
Reduction
was
of your family. Right? I mean, really.
Yes.
Go from 3 with Thomas being 1 year old, and then
Well,
reduce your family now by aborting Nate.
They used the word reduction because it was a twin pregnancy.
Okay.
So
Oh,
two
my.
babies, we're going to reduce this pregnancy to one baby.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it was hard to even figure out what she was talking about. It took a few seconds for me to clue in, she's talking about aborting our little boy.
Let me ask you, because we need to focus, I think, for people to grab this. And there may be couples that are in this spot, maybe not that specific diagnosis, but they have one. And, they're battling with what to do. It's real. It happens. Sometimes things aren't perfect in the womb. And that's just part of life.
Yeah.
So you get this diagnosis and you get this sterile kind of recommendation. It sounds like, not to put words in it, but okay, this is what we would do. That carries a lot of weight. What does that conversation sound like just between the two of you that night when you go home?
It felt like for us that they broke the bad news and gave us all the worst possible conditions right up front.
I think that's fairly typical.
Right? And so when we got that, we felt like, okay, is there anything good in this? Any salvaged kind of a situation in this? Any hope in this? So we were a little bit kind of thrown out a little bit. And then so our first reaction, I think, was, let's take everything, let's pray. So we shared with our families.
But if I could go back, I'm so thankful that Mauricio was there, because he's the one that spoke up. Like, do you remember what you said?
We were offered abortion, I think 7 times.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which moment was that I finally kind of had enough of it, and I basically said that, hey, listen, like we are for life. This is not an option for us. We believe that life is sacred. We believe that it doesn't come from us. It doesn't belong to us, and we are for life. All we ask is that you guys would bring everything you can that it is at your resource. And we will trust God that He's going to do His best. You give your best, and God will do His best.
How'd they respond to that?
He was quiet. The doctor was quiet. And then after that day, they never brought the issue back again.
Yeah, but I mean, that's good. It's a good way to do it. It's a good way for them to manage it, too. They respected your views.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But after that very first meeting when we just got the diagnosis, you actually said, we know you're talking about abortion, but you need to know we stand for life, and we're going to fight for our son's life. So it was actually I remember, because I had no words. Honestly, I was kind of in shock. And I remember being like, wow, like, thank goodness you're speaking up for me.
Yeah. Oh, that felt good, right?
Yes,
yeah.
It really did.
You probably felt, he's got my back.
Yes.
We are united in this.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, Kristen and Mauricio Rosa are our guests today on Focus on the Family with Jim Daly, and we want to point you to their book because it captures the story so beautifully and offers hope along the way in so many different ways. It's called Saving Nate, Choosing Life After a Devastating Prenatal Diagnosis. And we have copies of that book here. Give us a call or click the link in the description below. And this reminder to hit the subscribe button to access more videos like this one, and do leave a comment for us. Let us know what you think of today's show. You both have shown a lot of grace toward and compassion toward women who have chosen abortion. What does that look like? How do you offer hope when that decision has already been made, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I can understand why or how someone in this situation could choose abortion when you have the doctors, they're people that we generally, we respect their opinion, and they're offering this to you and not offering hope. So it's definitely understandable that, someone might choose abortion. And I think for us, if we hadn't gone into it with such strong convictions, we may have made a different choice than the one that we did.
That right there is the difference. Thinking ahead of time, if this were to happen to us, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So that's important. So I'm sorry, but I
Yes.
just wanted to punch that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, believing what you believe is really important at that moment.
That's right.
Exactly, because it's these moments where you have to decide, okay, am I going to trust in the Lord? There's this difficult situation, and what am I going to do? Put my faith into practice. But I would just say, to those who have chosen abortion, you made the best decision you can make given the information that you had at the time. But I would just say that, the Lord doesn't want you to stay in a place of guilt or shame or, hurt. And He's a good and gracious, loving God. I love Psalm 103. He says, as far as the heavens are above the earth, so great is the love that the Lord has for those who fear Him. And He's also a compassionate, forgiving God. It says, as far as the east is from the west, so far has He removed our transgressions from us. And, the Lord is just waiting there with arms open wide for you to come to Him, run to Him instead of away from Him, and, submit yourself to Him and immerse yourself in His Word and cling to His Word. And I am convinced the Lord will bring you the healing that you need and bring you the hope that you need. And I'd also encourage you to find an abortion recovery program. Many pregnancy care centers offer them. You can also find a Christian counselor or a pastor who can help you go through this process of healing.
There is grief related to that.
Yes.
So obviously a complicated pregnancy. You're probably getting regular check-ins with the doctor and ultrasounds, making sure Nate is, developing in other ways, but always with this condition, knowing that we're not sure how he's going to do at the moment of birth.
Yes.
So that happens. Nate is born. He takes one breath, and the doctors whisk him away.
Yeah.
Tell us that feeling and what hope did you have in that moment when you're not even sure you're going to see your child alive again?
Well, for me, I think knowing months in advance what was going to happen, knowing that he was going to need this intensive care, that actually helped me because there were no real surprises, right? So I knew that the moment he was born, he was going to be intubated and I wouldn't get to hold him. And so for me, in that moment, I wasn't fearful. I really wasn't because, we went into it with just so much prayer and there were so many people who were praying for us, were praying for Nate, that I was actually really ready to give birth to the babies. And because there were these months and months of waiting, right? And then you're kind of at the point where you're like, okay, let's do this, and so, but we definitely, there was so much prayer that went into this. And yeah.
I was wrestling, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Because, as Kristen's saying, a lot of people were praying for it, and we were praying for miracles, and my prayer, my hope was that God somehow would do a miracle that day, that Nate was going to be born, and at his first gasp of breath, he would cry and his lungs would be perfect and everything would be healed. That was my hope.
Sure.
And so at that morning when we went for the delivery, because it was planned, I was reading my Bible and the Lord gave us a verse, and was Deuteronomy 31, 7 and 8, to which the Lord spoke to me and said, I am the one who goes ahead of you. So your job is to trust me, to be courageous and just trust me. And then that verse really held me and us. So when we went that day, even though I had that hope, when that didn't happen, that verse really held me. Because now I knew that, okay, now he's intubated, he's going to go into a journey that we don't know how that's going to turn out. Like we didn't know what's going to happen. But that verse was a reminder for us, okay, the Lord is the one that is ahead of this. I need to trust him.
And that meant multiple surgeries for Nate in a short period of time, or what did that look like? What was the road for Nate?
Right. At the beginning, they just needed to get him stable. So intubated, getting enough oxygen, and just stable, like living.
Right.
And he actually had his first surgery when he was 8 days old. So that was the big surgery that where they moved his intestines and liver back down.
Fix the diaphragm.
So it was such a large hole that they had to patch it. And so that patch will be there for his whole life. And so he did actually throughout his stay in the hospital, with each little step that, he needed to go through, they always came back to us saying that he did better than expected. Yeah. And so he made it through that surgery. But unfortunately, he ended up becoming, I think his liver became infected just due to the handling.
Yeah.
And so for several weeks, he was dealing with a really serious infection.
Wow. But they were able to reposition his lungs and...
So that was the thing, because even though they put all the other organs where it should be under or below the diaphragm, so that didn't mean necessarily that his lungs and everything was going to work.
Right.
And that was the challenge, because now, okay, the hole is patched, so what's next? Is he going to be able to ever breathe on his own? So that was the question that we didn't have an answer, and the doctors didn't have an answer either. So that was our prayer now was, okay, now in addition of him being healed from all this infection, we need to pray that he was be able to breathe on his own and sustain on his own, which, took weeks and then...
Yeah, but it started to happen, right?
It
His
did.
lungs
His
began
lungs
to...
started to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So they had been so tiny, but they did start to grow.
They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And we could even see from the x-rays that, yes,
Wow.
they were growing.
That had to be encouraging, just to see that progress. But always, I would think, I never experienced that. So I'm, the edginess of it. Is that going to be enough? Lord, this growth we see, we're excited. Thank you, Lord. But
Yes.
is it going to be enough?
Yes.
Will he be able to breathe
Yeah.
normally, etc.?
It was difficult as a mom, to see your little boy who's struggling to survive. And, for weeks, he wasn't actually receiving any, breast milk or formula. He was just on the fluids to keep him alive. And then here, on the other hand, you have Emma, who's perfectly healthy. She's growing. She's plump and rosy. So, but, there was definitely just like this, your heart breaks in a way to see one of your children suffering so much.
Yeah. I was going to ask about the beads of courage. This is really important. This is really beautiful, actually. And this was a nurse at the hospital, or?
This is a program they have for the babies that are in the NICU.
Okay.
I was introduced to the beads of courage, I don't know, a few days after Nate was born. But basically, for every treatment that he had while he was in the hospital, there was a certain bead. Like each bead had a different meaning, right? So maybe purple was for a blood transfusion, or yellow is for something else. And so for every little thing that he endured, every poke, or major surgery, every day in the hospital, he received a bead. And so I was too overwhelmed myself with the babies to string them myself, but the nurses, they would do it for us. And so over the days and weeks, these beads, the beads of courage, just grew, right? Until I think they're about 15 feet long now.
Wow. One little bead at a time.
Yes.
That kind of explains the trauma.
Yes.
Right? Wow.
Yeah.
Over that much time. So how long was Nate in the hospital? And then you got the news that we're done. You can take him home.
He was in the hospital for 10 weeks. And it was a long 10 weeks. And that's what I meant, that, that Kristen is very strong emotionally. She was really able to handle everything. And for me, on my side, I was really emotionally struggling with the whole thing, like trying to reconcile, what is happening with work and the other kids at home and all of that. And so for us, I think a big day was on my birthday, actually. I come to the hospital, and that day they were able to remove all the intubation. And he was breathing on his own. And that was the greatest birthday gift I ever got. And the Lord was gracious to me to give that. I needed that. And then after a couple weeks, he was sent home.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's just get the obvious question out there. How is he?
He is doing great. He is a very active, happy, joyful, little boy. He's very, he does well in school. He loves reading. He loves learning about all the different countries of the world. I think he's going to be a traveler one day.
How old is he now?
He's 8.
Yeah, 8 years old.
Yeah.
Let me ask this hard question. In fact, you had a friend whose situation didn't turn out well. So on behalf of the viewers and the listeners that maybe are going through it and they're not getting the treatment outcomes that you experienced, things begin to improve. Nate strengthened, his breathing increased, his lungs did grow.
Yes.
There's going to be others that are experiencing the opposite. It's
That's
not
right.
going in a good direction,
Yeah.
and they're grieving, and they may have even lost their child.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing
Yeah.
human beings can experience, is the loss of a child. What do you say to them? What did you say to your friend?
Yeah. for the listener, I just want you to know, like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't imagine, anything worse. I would just, it's really hard. I mean, you wonder why did the Lord not answer my prayer? And my advice would be to cling to the Lord. He's still good. He still loves you. It's hard. We don't understand his ways, and yet for some reason in his sovereign will, this was what he chose, and that's not an easy thing to grasp and to say. But I would just encourage you to turn to the Psalms. The Psalms have helped me so much in my life. There's many Psalms of lament, and the Lord, he can handle our tough questions, our anger. And he can meet us in the hard place.
I think it's really, really hard. That's, the age-old question, why do we suffer? If you're a loving God, then why do children die?
Yes.
And, they're not questions we can answer fully, because especially for the pain in the heart of those parents that have lost a child. I don't even know that it's answerable other than trust in the Lord. The only other observation I would have, and I never had to deal with that kind of physical stuff, but I was an orphan kid. I had different things to deal with, but I do believe when a person can lean into the Lord, trust the Lord, love the Lord, regardless of their circumstances.
Yes.
That he smiles. God smiles. And it might be, I hadn't thought about it in this context, but a parent who has lost their child who can do that, he smiles the biggest for.
Yes.
Because he knows the pain of that.
I was gonna say that, Jim. I think you're right. I think we may never know the answer why. But if you look at the cross tells us, may not tell us the answer for why, but the cross tells us that God cares. And I think that is the greatest evidence of God's love for us, is that at the cross, he showed that he cares for us. Okay, Christ took our suffering. He knows what pain is. He knows the pain of guilt, the pain of shame. He knows the pain, physical pain. So he took all of our pain. So whether we are struggling with the suffering itself, or we're struggling with a wrong decision, we can all come to the cross, and we can bear that at the cross, knowing that Christ empathizes, he knows, and the cross shows us that he cares.
Yeah, amen. Yeah. So boy, this has been so encouraging and uplifting, but what a grueling process that you both had to go through, and poor Nate had to go through the most. So it's great he's 8 years old, he's looking strong and doing well, and we'll have to check in with you later to see at 15 how are things going. Hey Dad, could I have the keys? Kind of thing, maybe 16. 16. But out on the farm in Canada, you could probably drive earlier. But man, this has been so good. So thank you. Sorry for the experience, but thank you for the testimony and what God has taught you through all this. If this is touching a nerve for you, we want to be here for you. We do have caring Christian counselors right here at Focus on the Family. Be sure to call us. They'll schedule a time when they can call you back and talk with you and give you additional resources, including this great book, Saving Nate, to help you navigate your emotional and spiritual dilemmas as they are coming. You might even know somebody who could benefit from this type of book. So you could get that directly from Focus on the Family. When you make a gift of any amount, we'll send it as our way of saying thank you for being part of the ministry. And let me also mention Option Ultrasound. We've been doing this for 20 years now. I think we were the first that got into placing ultrasound machines into pregnancy resource clinics, partnering with them. But it was just an idea. We could get that out nationally, internationally. Do you want to help put an ultrasound machine in? And that effort, along with many additional things that we've been able to do at Focus on the Family to wrap around those pregnancy resource clinics, has resulted in over 550,000 babies being saved. That includes Canada, U.S., everybody. That is an awesome number, and we're excited about that. We have the data, and this is the data. $60 will save a baby's life. So if you're up for that, if you can afford $60 to save another person, let us know. Send us that resource and we'll put it to work to do just that. And we'll report back next year how many babies were saved. That's the accountability that I want Focus to have. So, man, that's it. Call a counselor, call us for the resource, save a baby's life. I don't think it gets any better than that. So just step up with us and get this done.
Yeah, as God is tugging on your heart, respond by calling 800, the letter A in the word family, or we've got the details in the description below. And thanks for joining us for Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.